Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ari Janelle, and for today's video I am going to be doing a review over a novel called Affliction by Crystal J. Johnson. Now this is absolutely one of my favorite novels on Wattpad, and I'm going to get into all of that when I do my review. But before we get into that, let me go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about how I'm going to be doing my reviews. Okay, so first off, we're going to start with the synopsis, okay? I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what the book is about, a little bit of the key points in the book, and then we're going to go straight over into talking about characters. Now, here's where I'm going to go ahead and break down the characters a little bit more, dissect them, tell you what they're all about, and then we're going to jump straight into writing after that. That's basically just a breakdown of how the author writes, how the story reads, things like that. And then finally, I'm going to give you guys my final thoughts on the novel overall, and that it will include things like, you know, the cover, participation of the author on Wattpad, just things like that, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into the synopsis. Affliction is the story of Quinn Ellery, who is a 19-year-old girl who really just wants to spend her last summer before she goes off to college with her cousin River. So she begs her cousin River to stay home with her in North Dakota in their house, in their childhood home where they grew up, instead of going to South Africa to visit River's mother's parents. It's supposed to be a summer of just having fun in their home and swimming in the lake behind their house and just doing whatever it is that small town girls do for fun over the summer, quickly turns into just a state of devastation when the United States is overcome with a new virus. Now this new virus, which is dubbed the Z virus, turns everybody in the country into flesh-eating zombies and forces the girls into an underground bunker that was constructed by River's dad, Josh, which is Quinn's uncle, solely for this purpose. And for an entire year, that is where the girls live, in that bunker, feeding on the plants from River's mom, Amara's greenhouse, and meats that they've had stored up. And they pretty much have everything that they would need to survive in that bunker. And that's just in the prologue, okay? The story actually opens up on Christmas Eve when Quinn and River decide to raid an abandoned drugstore so that they can find Christmas presents. And this is actually what I adore about this story, is that even though you have all these moments of just death, destruction, and flat out survival at times, you still had moments when they were being cute and fun, and it really showed you that these girls are really just 17-year-old girls at heart. So they go back home and they have hot chocolate, they have a feast, they're listening to Christmas music, they've got on their cute Christmas pajamas, and then they hear something upstairs. Now, this is weird for two reasons. A, like I said, their entire family is in South Africa now, so there should be no one at the very top of their house. And also, the house doesn't even look lived in anymore because they have moved all their furniture either downstairs into the basement. So in typical River and Quinn fashion, they grab their ammunition and their guns and they decide that they are going to scope this out for themselves, because if it's a Z outbreak, they need to take them out immediately so that they won't have them just, you know, taking over their home. But when they go upstairs, they find that it is not Z's that have overtaken their home, but it is four strapping young British men who have brought their sick friend to the house in order for him to recuperate so that they can continue to travel on to the Canadian border and hopefully get back to the UK safely. And that's really what this story is about. It's about this group of 19 to 22-year-olds not only trying to find a way to sort of cohabitate and fight off Z's, but just trying to figure out how to fit one another in all of their lives. And it's actually a really, really, really cool story. So let me go ahead and get into the characterization. So as I have stated, you have Quinn Ellery, who's a 19-year-old girl. And what I really, really absolutely loved about Quinn is that she was a total badass to the core. Like, she was not the type of girl who would sit back and let someone take control in the sense that, you know, they're protecting her and she's this damsel in distress who just needs to be saved. No, she was the first one who'd be like, okay, you know what, we need to get our guns, get our ammo, and we need to fight the Z's ourselves. But she also knew her own limitations. There were times when she did need to rely on other people for help, and she knew that, she knew that while she was a very strong female character, she wasn't invincible. Sometimes I feel like authors either go one or two ways with their female characters. They either make their characters damsels in distress who just need to be saved by the big strong man, or they make them, "Grr, I'm gonna do everything by myself," and then she saves the day and, does all these weird, like, death-defying things that in real life just probably wouldn't be possible without a little bit of help. And honestly, I felt like there was a really healthy balance of both in Affliction with Quinn Ellery, because she was strong. She did prefer to take on everything or most things on her own, but that was really just because she had River to help her always, and she always knew that she needed help. She always knew that there's no way she would have been able to survive even the beginning months of the Affliction if she had been by herself, because you need that backup, and she knew that she needed that backup, but she's always had her cousin. She also deals with this just overwhelming amount of guilt at the fact that she is the reason why her cousin stayed behind and isn't in South Africa with her mom and dad. And so you've got those things to humanize her and to make her into this strong character that, isn't just flawed, but is just human, and she just pops off of the page for this very reason. Next, you have River. Now, if Quinn is night, then River is day, in the sense that while they're both badass female heroines, River is the sunny one, the optimistic one. She's the one who would probably be a doctor if she could have gone off to college. She's just absolutely pivotal to the story in the sense that she is the one who helps these boys' friend get back to a place of health. And what I really love about her too is that, yes, she is, willing to pick up a gun and do this, but where Quinn was very practical and thought everything out immediately, River was kind of a dreamer. She thought with her heart a lot. She thought with her conscience a lot. And not that Quinn didn't have a conscience, because there are points when she's like, I don't know if I could pick up a gun and actually shoot a human the way I could, a Z. But I just thought that River was a special little darling in the sense that, she was really the heart. If Quinn was the brains of the operation or the courage of the operation, then you had River, who was the heart of the operation. And I really love that relationship between the two, because they meshed so well, and you need both of those, and that's why they complemented each other very, very well. Now, speaking of people who compliment Quinn in such a big way, we are going to talk about Harry, Mr. Tall, Dark, and Heavily Tattooed Harry. Okay, so I absolutely, I adore him. If you like those, tall, mysterious, broody characters, this one is for you. But if you like the type of broody characters that are just broody for absolutely no reason without any backstory, this may not be the story for you, but give it a try anyway, because Harry has got a backstory. He too is facing overwhelming guilt, because not only are they in this new country on holiday that they're not even from, he also experienced something in his travels that has just riddled him with guilt. And because of that, he, in the same way that Quinn is making sure that she is being strong for her cousin and she wants to make sure that she keeps her cousin safe, he is doing the exact same thing for his friends. And I think that's pretty much why they clashed at first. There was this really big push and pull because neither one of them knew each other, but they both had this big responsibility on their shoulders. That, granted, was self-imposed, but they just both felt that they were the sole reason why their friends or family were in the predicaments that they were in, and they should be the sole protectors and reason that their friends and family get to safety. And so, like I said, you see a little bit of push and pull with them at first, but it's actually that bonds them. It's their strength and their loyalty and the just overall integrity of both characters that really just pushes them over the limit to, being reluctant acquaintances, to then reluctant friends, to a little bit more, to a hell of a lot more later. Now let's go ahead and talk about Noah, because if Quinn and Harry are the slow burn that, you don't really know will actually happen, then Noah and River are that, love at first sight, genuine first love, connection immediately character couple, and I honestly adore this because I think you need both. With Quinn and Harry, you had this situation where they're both bonding over grief, and it turns into something very, very real for both characters. But for Noah and River, you had this sort of lighthearted romance that's very strong. I mean, it's not frivolous at all, but you had more of a lighthearted romance. And what I thought was really cool about that is that, you know, they're facing this Z apocalypse, you know, and this goes back to what I'm saying about having those lighthearted moments, because they're sitting there, you know, falling in love before your eyes, and everyone else is like, really, guys, like, we are fighting for our lives, having to face another Z outbreak every 10 seconds, and you guys are making out on the couch, like, really. And I just really thought it was super cool that you incorporated that, because in the end, you do still have like a house full of teenagers / young adults who are home alone. There are no parents to stop them, no parents to tell them what to do. They are making their own rules, and it kind of just made it feel at times like that college environment that none of them really got a chance to experience because of the Z outbreak. And I really thought that was cool that was explored. Now you have Wes, and Wes is a character that we didn't really get a chance to see a lot of. We saw him, but we didn't really get a chance to explore his characterization as much as I would have liked to, and I can't wait to explore his characterization even more in Sanctuary, which is book 2 of the Affliction series. But I will say that he was the lighthearted one. He was the funny one. He was definitely the much needed comic relief sometimes when everything was just falling to shit, basically. And so I can't wait personally to see more of him. He was an absolute darling and just an overall great character. And now, if you only fall in love with one character in the book, and I don't understand how this is humanly possible, you probably don't like rainbows or puppies or happiness, and that's okay. That's your business. That's totally fine. But if you only fall in love with one character in the entire book, it would probably have to be Aiden. Aiden, as much as Harry is my tall, dark, handsome, heavily tattooed, like, knight in shining armor, my book boyfriend from this series would have to be Aiden. He was absolutely adorable. I loved every scene that he was in, and he was honestly such a fan favorite that every time something happened to him, and by the way, he is the character that was sick at the very beginning, literally everybody in the comments was like, no, not Aiden, including myself, because I was just like, no, he's so adorable. Why is everything bad happening to him? He will make you root for him. He is the sweetest. He will melt the coldest hearts to stone, and I simply adore him. And he's another character that I can't wait to see in the sequel, because he has such a really cool and genuine friendship with Quinn. That's this really cool, like, flirtatious thing going on. And both of them knew that it was mostly to mess with Harry, who, you know, kind of always sort of was attracted to Quinn and her strength and all of that. If at the very least, just because he respected all of that in her. But, you know, it was just a really cute and sweet friendship, and I can't wait to see more of that in the sequel as well. Now let's talk about the writing. The writing of this book is definitely the type of writing that makes you actively think about not just the story, but about society in general, because a lot of the things that they are talking about in the book, and when they go out into society and they see how much the world or the country has changed during the Affliction and after, it really just shows you the dark parts of humanity. You know, the parts that we like to deny are actually true until we are faced with any type of calamity or catastrophe. And when you've got that much chaos going on in general, it's going to inspire people to do things that they never thought that they would. And I really thought that that was a really cool angle to take. I thought it was really excellent that she explored that, because that is definitely something that happens in real society. And yet it doesn't seem like it's so super preachy, because, you know that the zombie apocalypse isn't real. But what I do hope people take from it is that this stuff actually does happen in societies. And what was even better is that she placed it here, because it showed that, you know, here in the States, we're not immune to those things happening. We're no different than anywhere else where this is happening currently, and it could happen to anybody, because that's just human nature. I also, her use of words is just entirely different language. It's beautiful. It's the story is very heavily plot focused, but the moments where the characters have their introspective inner dialogue is some of my favorite, because I love how much thought was clearly put into this story in order to make the characters rationalize their feelings and their actions so thoroughly. So the writing, I'm probably not ever going to write another books or another author's writing again, because I don't really like to, I don't like to step on anyone's artwork. I've been there before where I've been new and my writing wasn't the greatest, but I would have to say that Crystal's writing is a 10 out of 10, 20 out of 10, 30 out of 10, 100 out of 10. You have got to pick up this book. Now, for the final thoughts on Affliction. I pretty much have said everything that I wanted to say, but one thing that I didn't get a chance to say, and this goes back to the character River. I was really, really happy to see that River was a woman of color for a few reasons. One, Wattpad is a community where you don't really see a lot of diversity. I feel like we're starting to see a few of them trickle in, but overall it's still overwhelmingly, monochromatic, if you will. And I like the fact that River was a woman of color, like I said, for diversity's sake, but I also like the way she was characterized, because, like I said, she wasn't a plot device for anyone else's story. She had her own storyline. She wasn't like constantly, putting herself in the line of danger just to save everybody else as though she didn't matter. That actually was happening. People were doing that for her. People genuinely cared for her, and she was doing it in return to them. She was just as much a part of the team as anyone else was. She was just as important as everyone else was. She was a very smart character, and the author, like I said, Crystal, didn't, the clues that she threw in to make you understand that she was a woman of color were very blatant. Like, her mom was Black South African, her dad is white. That automatically makes her mixed. Her skin color is mentioned like maybe once or twice. The fact that she's got like these really cool sandy blonde or almost dark blonde curls is mentioned a few times in regard to her beauty in general. But it doesn't feel like, it's being thrown in our faces, or it doesn't feel like it's being used in order to get, like a more diverse readership. It just feels like it just is. And her characterization didn't change any because she was a woman of color. Like, she didn't, it was a really cool way to portray it. And like I said, for obvious reasons, I actually really, really adored this bit of representation, because it was really super cool to see that happen, especially when it didn't have to. The author didn't have to do that, and the story would have been just as great, but she did. And I thought it was really, really awesome. And another thing that I really adored about this book was the cover. And that's actually how I found this story. The cover stood out to me when I was on some type of cover rating forum, and it literally was like this multimedia flash type of deal. And I remember messaging the author, like I said, Crystal. I remember messaging Crystal and being like, I don't read zombie stories, but I really wish I did, because this is the coolest cover ever. And I'm going to post it up here. I may even still have it up here, but I don't know if you guys can see it. Like, you've got Quinn in the forefront, and then you've got these little like Z's like on both sides of her, and they would flash. So it would be dark sometimes, and then they were there, and then it would go dark, and then they were there. And I was just like, that's really cool. And so she messaged me back, and she said, well, like, this is actually really more of a love story than it is a Z story. And the way she describes it is that if CW show and 28 days later had a baby, this would be Affliction. And I think that's a really, really good description for it. This needs to be made into a movie or a television series ASAP. It is absolutely amazing, and it is now complete. And not only that, but Crystal has finished not just Affliction, but she has also finished book 2, which is Sanctuary, and she has finished book 3, which I unfortunately cannot remember the title to, but she has finished all 3 books. She wrote them in under a year, which I don't know how you did it. Props to your girl, but she did it in under a year. They're all finished, so you can believe that she won't just leave these stories abandoned. They will all be uploaded in their entirety onto Wattpad. So I urge you to go ahead and check it out. right now. I'm going to leave the link below to her page and to her stories. And if you like this video and you want to see more from me, then go ahead and click that subscribe button down at the bottom. Don't know which side it is. And go ahead and ring that little notification bell so that you guys get new updates every time that I upload. And until next time, guys, this is Ari saying happy reading. Bye.